Super last second edition here. BSG just tweeted that they will be making some changes to the server system that you're about to hear about in this video. It's going to be tomorrow at the same time it was today. So let's hope it's better for those who have been negatively affected by it. We'll have to wait and see. What's up, guys? Nolan here, and it turns out no new event today, probably, as the patch that we got this morning was in fact a major reformatting to networking in Escape from Tarkov that seemingly is great for everyone but people who are playing in the oceanic region of the world, and probably a few outlying areas too where servers are scarce. It's actually making some people from the low server pop regions unable to play the game, so of course BSG are looking into a fix for those people, and that's direct from BSG as well, so they are indeed on it. For everyone else, these changes mean less queue times for getting into a raid, less queues in general, theoretically, but we haven't had a major event to test that yet. Also, it will cut down on exploiting low pop servers since you now can't pick them. If you go around YouTube right now, chances are you'll find at least several get rich quick kind of videos for Tarkov where they mention doing this, where basically you just pick a server that you know not a lot of people are going to be on, that you should be able to connect to, and you should see less people and it should be way less active. I know that I've definitely mentioned this a few times in the past. It was never seen as particularly bad, but still not ideal to have a solid system to get either low pop or potentially empty servers to farm or fill with your friends. There's more options for offline raids coming, so in terms of the fill with your friends stuff, that will fill in the gaps of that stuff people were doing. But yeah, generally speaking, unless you live in low pop areas, especially around OCE regions, this actually was pretty good. There also seems to be a lot that has changed with the economy and prices of items, possibly only revolving around the US dollar specifically. There absolutely is differences in prices of items all around the traders, and nothing was said by BSG, so we don't have a solid way of tracking everything. I can only assume these are economic changes that they put in place to prep for what's coming, but 100% it could just be a bug with the dollar value right now. However, I feel like they would have fixed it by now if it was, so no solid way of telling, at least not yet. So with what came with this patch, this sort of thing is totally something that would need the servers to go down, which although I did make it clear that that was possible, I was leaning more towards this being an event. I figured if they were going to do anything like this, they would have done it with the patch, but we'll talk about this in a second here. I'm actually glad that they did it this way. But one of these days soon, and probably even this weekend, BSG will either do what they just did yesterday, and it will be an event, or at some point this week, something will happen out of nowhere, because it's actually possible they snuck in an event and the stuff with the event with this patch as well. The only reason we started expecting events around patches like that, like what they did yesterday, is because BSG have been trying to hide the event changes in these patches, and then they start the events immediately so that data miners don't ruin the surprise of the event. Although there is still some data mined information getting through, there's stuff that doesn't get found, proof being with these USD changes. So I think it is possible that BSG could have snuck something in with this patch, especially since we did get these hidden changes. However, the server infrastructure changes did warrant the shutdown on their own, so maybe not. And again, in terms of events, it's any day now. Probably this weekend we'll get another. If we don't, then we're going to start having a conversation about delay, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. When it comes to these kinds of changes, the major thing to remember here is that we are testing these things so BSG can iterate on them in order to make the game better down the line. This new system seems to work everywhere but in the OCE regions so far, so if BSG can find a way to balance it out for them, then this is a very good thing. Also, it was actually smart to get it out before this next patch, because if it was broken or something they had to fix, depending on how long they needed to fix it, that could mean no day one or maybe even week one for wipe for anybody that's affected. There is a lot of people, including big names in the community out there in the OCE regions, who literally can't play the game right now, and even if they try to go in, you'll lose your gear because you get disconnected from the ping limits. So this is actually a huge deal. So this ended up being basically a dry run on the new system before they actually needed it, so I do think it was a good idea in my book. Now, we haven't gotten the English version directly from BSG yet, but there were several Russians that wanted me to change some things about the stuff that I said yesterday. There ended up being a couple changes to the translations from yesterday's video, but basically it sums up to if you've been tracking the news before yesterday around streets, then you're good. All the stuff that I sounded sketchy, or I even put sketchy in the name, around the streets being ready for 3 years and stuff like that, was actually mistranslation. The TLDR, to be clear here, is Streets has technically been playable for a while now, but they wanted to get the performance up to Lighthouse standards before release. We knew this, it just sucks the translation ended up being weird. The part about Dormitory District was about the area that we call high-rises. We knew this wouldn't be a part of the Streets location already, and Nikita said as much, but again, the translation came out weird. For those who don't know, that is speculated to be the tutorial area or intro area of some kind, as we believe you will start on the Streets location and then work your way out. Some people commented thinking I said destructible environments would be everywhere, and I specifically said the opposite, so maybe a double mistranslation there. I don't know what's going on with that. So to be clear, and as we've known for probably well over a year now, I've also made several videos talking about this, these walls walls that can be brought down will be rare and specific, and like I mentioned in yesterday's video, nothing like Battlefield, just something unique. They will try to add them to all locations though in some way. Basically see these as a door that you can't open without explosives rather than a wall. And doors aren't everywhere, so you have to find them. There were also several people who said I got stuff wrong about the APC. I went back and watched it. I read through my notes. It seems to be exactly what I said, past the confirmation that tower means turret. I actually literally said that in the video. I thought tower, they probably mean turret. I said that, so I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, so like all of my videos, I've taken time to talk about the BTR taxi. It will work like a taxi or subway train. You can't drive it, but you can ride along, and for an extra price, you can use the gun. This was something that came up a long time ago. Unfortunately, this translation was a bit sketchy yesterday, so it seemed like there might be something new happening with it, but again, this was old news. We knew all of this stuff. Also, again, there were some issues around the words tasks and quests, but again, I wouldn't have said anything differently. Expect there to be a lot of changes to the tasks that we've grown used to in this next patch. A specific quote was, quote, to make quests fresh again for people who are doing it every wipe, end quote. So yeah, I do not know how I would have said it any differently yesterday. It seems there are some major changes coming with these quests next patch. At the very least, everybody's going to need to redo their quest videos. Then last but not least, the stuff about active players was Nikita talking about his expectations back when they first started the project. He was just generalizing the all-time peak player numbers, which was weird to me because I thought that they've gone over 400,000 before in the past, but maybe it was 300K. So yeah, that big number was in fact all-time and not annual or anything. Everything else was completely on point, so if you watched yesterday's video, you're good. And now you know what I mean by minimal. There really wasn't anything too significant that I missed, especially since it sounded sketchy in the first place. There's always lots of problems when it comes to this translation stuff. Speaking of translation stuff, big thanks to Rasty Airsoft and his editor. He was the guy that ended up taking the notes that were then translated to English, which to be clear, he didn't do the translation, somebody else did. If any of you guys listening right now do speak Russian, you should check him out. Big time OG Tarkov guy over there in the Russian community. Rasty Airsoft, go check him out. So in conclusion, it's possible that we might have something else drop unexpectedly, as BSG could have snuck in an event under this patch, but there is loads of economy changes. Unless you're in OCE region, you'll be seeing much quicker matchmaking times and more players on average. So it ended up being a pretty interesting patch. If they didn't end up sneaking an event in, I am expecting one will drop soon. It's the exact same story that we've been working off for the last few weeks now. If it's mechanic or Rizzy, we still have a week or two before we start seeing pre-patch or patch or whatever. And again, personally, I am waiting to see some kind of event that leads us to Lighthouse before I get too excited. Once something does happen though, you will hear it here first, especially if you're following me on Twitter or in the Discord, both linked below. But that is all for now, guys. If you like this video, there is a button for that. Subscribe for more like it, or check out my latest Tarkov news here, especially if you didn't see yesterday's video. That's got all the new info that I made a couple corrections for today here. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day. See you guys.